Nathan, you did have a good topic. It's been a little bit on my mind because I've been listening to a lot of old Reddit talks, and sometimes this topic comes up.
Yeah, that's kind of what inspired me, really, is the, going through that kind of stuff. They do touch upon that every now and then.
Yeah, the viability of gaming-based careers in the long terms. Like, in the future, could people be YouTubers or competitive gamers as a fully fledged career choice?
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, I've not completely thought this through, but
Well,
I've given a little bit of thought to it and basically had the idea. That's that's a start at least.
right.
As far as I know, it's really only viable if you're in that like 1% of people who can get a stupid amount of views for screaming into a headset while playing Minecraft for 130 episodes. If you're not that crowd, this trying to make a living off this would be really difficult.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is the oversaturation of the market? I think is the big problem because there's gonna be so many people out there trying to do this shit, and it's like you've got to really stand out if you're gonna, go up to the top.
If you're collecting money, what are your options? Your options are ad revenue, and
Hmm.
unless, like I said, unless you're one of the aforementioned people who somehow acquire millions of followers, then that's really not going to make the bank for rent payment, what have you. So then the other option is Patreon seems like a good idea because that's a way for people to basically pay you sort of a salary, monthly increments to keep you going. But the problem there is, you have sort of a fickle audience that can sort of cut their support off any way you want. Now, granted, people on the internet are kind of lazy, so once they set that up, they might like forget about it for a few months before they realize that, oh, I don't watch this guy anymore. I should probably take this down.
I was like that with RuneScape.
Yeah. It's like if you get a subscription to an online magazine or something, unless you have like a guaranteed contract, like, hey, you're going to be paying for this for like an entire year, then you sort of have to hope that you do have a loyal audience, and unless you can get some really generous people, because the thing is they're setting the amount they're paying, you're not going to get anything. And you mentioned oversaturation of market. That pretty much precludes you from doing a subscription service because no one's going to believe you're funny enough to warrant that. You've got enough
Yeah,
competition that it's not going to happen.
yeah. Let's. I think let's take my example of how I found the, how I actually found this. It was because it was actually through, through Chip Cheese and Ironicus. It was like there was one of the related videos was a Straw Hat No video, and that's kind of how I stumbled across it.
Mhm.
So it's like you really are gonna have to kind of rely on people just stumbling across you if you're just starting out. You're not
Oh,
gonna
you
because you're gonna get pushed down to the bottom of the views and shit.
oh, you want to talk about stumbling across people? The only reason I found out about the Straw Hat No, I was on the Let's Play archive, and I literally just went to the table of contents, sorted by like tags. I think I went for voice and humor. I wanted something I could just put in the background and not paying attention to. The first one on the list was 007 Agent Under Fire by Thornbrain. So I clicked on that
Yeah,
one and I watched that. That is the only reason I know about the Straw Hat No. And then I was like, oh, wait, they have actual quality to what they're doing. I'll go see if they did other things. And lo and behold, Bomberman. And then the rest is history, as they say.
No, man, having the very first LP listed on LP Archive is like my greatest pride.
Was that
yeah,
planned at all? I don't think it was, but
No, it was complete luck, and there's like five or so other 007 LPs,
mhm.
but because mine starts with the numbers and an A, it's always going to be up top.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that, and I found Let's Players through go to TV tropes, just look up Let's Play, and then go to the funny section. Look for any jokes that look really funny, and you want to know the context for it. Bam, you found a new thing to scroll through. So that's how I found out about people like the Dark Id, Tipping 40s, freelance astronauts. Bunch of people. And even then, how I found out about Let's Playing at all was I was on YouTube, and the only thing I was curious about was, you know, I don't know what the final boss to the original Final Fantasy looks like. I'm going to look for someone who recorded that fight, and I found a Let's Play by H.C. Bailey, which I still follow today, actually. And I saw his Let's Play of that, and I was like, oh, hey, it's like a commentated walkthrough. Yeah, I'll go ahead and watch this. I'm probably never going to play this game, so let's let's see what it looks like, sort of step by step. And this guy seems a little funny. Although back then he was mainly just doing walkthroughs. It wasn't like trying to entertain people at all. So that is the thing. People stumble upon this, so either you get marketing or word of mouth or cross contamination through other products I the Runaway guys, which are Chugga Conroy, Proton John, and Nintendo Capri Sun. I think I only knew about one of those guys, but when he joined that project, I got exposed to the other two. Granted, I didn't really care for two out of the three, like how they conduct their style, but I still now know them, which is a bit more than what they had before.
Marketing is pretty heavily reliant on what you do yourself. You kind of need to start spreading your own mouth around before others can start spreading it for you.
Yeah. And I think Thorn, you're sort of in luck that you have ties to other projects like the Midnight Frogs, the Bomberman Jetters abridged series, and the very shady past of Let's Plays that I know nothing about because you basically buried it so deep down forever. But and then you've also got other funny, engaged commentators to help you out on it. So even if someone doesn't like you in particular, they might come for Yoshi or Travis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not to say anyone does that, of course.
It could be. I've seen a few comments of like, I don't like this one guy. They don't specify who that one guy is, but they still don't like them.
I'm kind of hoping I don't see that in the comments for this, because then I'll be like, oh shit.
Who's that one guy? He's got the voice. I don't like it. It could be any of us. Who knows?
The guy who sounds a bit like Redundant, but not really.
Or that one guy who keeps plugging all these other Let's Players I don't give a shit about.
Though, like referring to SFA, Jetters, and everything, very little of that audience I found is carried over to the TheStrawhatNO.
Like I said, I came through the Let's Play archive. I don't have a Something Awful forum account. But the thing is, since you have posted the Ni no Kuni Let's Play, since you have that as partly screenshot and it's on the forum, I now visit there to go check on updates on that. And I'm actually still in the process of catching up on the rest of those. But I would not have... I know about the forum because a lot of the stuff on the archive is just pasted over from there. So I know but I did, too cheap to pay the whatever amount of money I need to make an account on there, which, that's why you don't make money at this, at least in my opinion, is people on the internet, they want instant gratification and they want it for free, and they can get it for free. So you put a PayPal sign on there that is an instant barrier to entry of like 90% of the people who are following your work.
Which is good for quality control, at least, in terms of SA.
Yeah, I can agree on that, definitely.
See, going back to what we were talking about, payment methods for Let's Play popularity, it's pretty much entirely ad revenue, which had me thinking, could there come a point where a company could hire a Let's Player or what have you with a actual paid salary, not something based off of ad revenue necessarily, but based off a more generalized income?
See, that was my kind of thought. Like, where would you go with that? Would you pay them to just do like stuff on the internet, or would you maybe, I don't know, give them like a TV slot or something? It's like, where would you go with that? What would you do?
I think I have seen something similar to that. I know the freelance astronauts played the Gunstringer. I don't know if that was the maker requesting they do that, or they like sent them a copy or something. But that was sort of a bit of free advertising in that way. And I think Game Grumps played some game at the request of the developer. I don't remember what that one was either. I think Runaway Guys might have done that too, but it's never, as far as I know, it's never been a paid thing. It's always been sort of a, like, say you wanted a demo code for Omega Ruby Sapphire, that thing coming out. Mm-hmm. If you were a prominent Let's Player, they might give you that code so that you can put it on your channel and play it for them. But I don't think they would ever pay you for that. If they want to show off gameplay footage, they'll make a trailer with the gameplay footage. I've seen there's a lot of games where like you'll see a trailer, but the trailer is actually like 30 minutes of one of the developers playing through the game and explaining sort of what each step of the process is. So if they want that, they can do that. They might not have like the same amount of comedy or reach as wide an audience, but it's certainly a lot cheaper.
There have been cases where Let's Players, or at least game players, have had contracts with gaming companies to LP their games. I think it was Proton John or someone, probably with the Runaway Guys, who had a contract with Nintendo to LP a game, and then the copyright ad revenue thing passed over, and then that got kind of undercut. But there have been cases of it.
I think that was the new Super Mario's game, the one of them. for like the Wii or the Wii U. If I
Yeah, I
recall
think I
correctly.
heard about that on Retsu Talk of all places.
Yeah.
I think that's where they discussed that. But yeah, that did happen. So that's the thing. And didn't they do Xenoblade as well, or was that someone else? I'm sure
Uh,
someone else did a thing of
Shugga
Xenoblade.
Conroy, I think, is doing a Xenoblades thing at the moment, which is on hiatus because he's sick, if I heard. But I don't remember if someone did it for like an ad agreement. I don't remember that.
No, but I don't know. I'm just picking random bits of information just from wherever. I'm not even sure what's real and what isn't.
Well, that's a good point. Information does get spread around through these various channels. So if there is sort of an up and coming development, like some players getting a lot of popularity or appearing in a lot of guest spots, then you're likely to hear about it. But is it going to generate enough interest for you to watch this stuff, and moreover, watch enough of their stuff consistently that it'll make them ad revenue? Like that's actually you should go, if you have not already, go to Game Theory and watch a video about how PewDiePie took over YouTube. It explains actually how YouTube's algorithm for determining what you're watching and how much revenue should be generated off that. Let's Plays are very good for that because you go to a channel, you start on one video, and then the next video in that series is in the related tab, and you watch the video all the way through, and then you'll click that related video for the same channel, watch it all the way through. For how YouTube's algorithm works in that capacity, that is an instant like gold star that this is a channel that is generating a lot of traffic through itself and would be a great place to put a high stakes ad revenue in.
I think Slowbeef recently pointed out they also found out the algorithm leans much more heavily towards channels that update about 3 times in 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, wasn't that the whole point of the Retsu, was to see if they could consistently get that going. Well, that wasn't about the revenue, it was just really if it was possible to maintain that kind of level of standard. Because that's another thing, you've got to keep your stuff consistent to keep the viewers in.
Which brings me back to the guy with a 1,000-part Minecraft series where all they're doing is walking around for 15 minutes and just talking about stuff. It doesn't take a lot of work to make a single episode of that. Especially if you
How
can
many
get
views does that got?
Depends on the person.
Well, and I'll provide a counter argument. The Dark Souls stream, just to make that watchable, takes me because I am uploading that on a every other day basis just so that there's recurring content on the channel. But because the bass recording all came through Travis's microphone and I don't sound good through that, there is a good bit of audio editing. It's probably the easiest audio editing I've done. But overall, just for how much videos go up per week in comparison to our regular Let's Plays, which takes a lot more audio editing to get right, the ratio of work towards content is about the same. So you really could just fart something out that's not worth a damn and make plenty of money, but something that's kind of worth watching takes a more personal time investment in comparison to like any revenue you would get out of it.
That's why a lot of those collaborative channels like Game Grunts and Runaway Guys, they have someone in the group specifically to be the editor, to go in and spend a lot of their free time at the expense of other projects to edit down all these episodes that are going to go up. Game Grumps especially, they have one guy, Barry I think is his name, that's his sole job is editing, although nowadays he also takes part in the games too. So I don't quite understand, I guess, how what is system maximizes your quote unquote profit. Do you just shit things out constantly, or do you spend a lot of time on good quality to try and build up a base and then shit on them later when they're, stuck in their ways?
Well, we don't have any stats for that, so that makes it a bit difficult to work out. YouTube are a bit secretive about that stuff.
Well, if they weren't, then everyone would go for it.
Yeah, fair point.
Then we'd see what a really saturated market would look like.
God, don't even. Yeah.
Tell me, you're on Something Awful, and I'm not. What's sort of the view over there towards YouTube Let's Players? Because from what I understand, it's sort of like YouTube is the gutter, and only real quality tends to show up on the forum. Is that sort of a common perception, or am I wrong on that?
Common, but the quality of the video itself is the most important part. And if they find something good that isn't on SA, they'll fully acknowledge it. The main thing is YouTube, the barrier of entry is just so low that you really could go in with no prior understanding of your equipment, your own personality behind the microphone. Just come up with something that nobody's really going to like. But on Essay, because of that $10 pay block, you kind of have the personal interest in actually putting something that people would want to see. And because they have the Let's Play Sandcastle, which allows you to, before you've ever made a thread, you can make sort of a mock thread. Here's one video. How does the video look? How do I sound? How am I handling the commentary? And people will give you good advice. It lets you see how you're going to look once you've made the proper jump into it, and see how your workflow is going to be, if this is going to tire you out before you're really done with the game. Generally, Essay is a good place to look for quality in comparison to YouTube, where you can just upload it as is.
Yeah, that's just it. If there was ever going to be a viable market for people just taking this up as kind of a career choice, there would have to be some kind of, something like the Sandcastle in place. There would be some kind of system to root out the really shit people.
Oh, it doesn't stop them from posting in the Sandcastle, though.
I suppose, but at least there needs to be some quality control.
Uh-huh.
Should there be sort of a committee that sort of acts as quality control? I know we've got Retsu plays and whatnot. We have plenty of places to go if you want to mock bad quality, but is there any sort of place we can go where you can find recommendations, rankings, I guess, more or less, like a very quick list of names, and then you can click on them and find, what do people seem to find them, their good points, their bad points, what's their catalog, how long they've been doing this?
I don't think a place like that exists just yet. I know occasionally on Essay they'll have a recommendations thread, but in the case of quality control, keep in mind the most popular person on YouTube right now just screams into a microphone. If we're going to have quality control, that's what's going to be the big bucks.
That is kind of the problem in a nutshell. How can you have quality control when there is no real quality in the first place?
So here we have a problem where, which is sort of like the problem you could say the video game industry itself has, where we want better products and more time and love and sweat and tears poured into those products because we care about, the product itself and what it means to us. But the wallets keep voting towards the lowest common denominator, more or less.
Yep, Call of Duty, Destiny, all that stuff. That's all we're gonna keep getting.
I haven't played Destiny. Are you very firm in your opinion that it's sort of on that same level of generic shoot 'em up that, say, Call of Duty is?
I'll be honest, I've not played it, and I've probably put my foot in mouth with that, but from what I've heard, it does sound very much like it's just Halo, but with, kind of more stuff. I don't know. I should have looked into this, really.
You can hardly blame Microsoft for wanting to keep sort of the Halo spirit alive. That's served them very well in the past.
Yeah. Anyone who's in the comments who knows more about this, do feel free to correct me on this, but that is kind of the vibe that I've got from it, basically. From all the advertising, from all the press that I've seen on it, is just kind of just giving me that kind of vibe. But yeah.
That jogs my memory. I've noticed that as far as Let's Plays go, a lot of Let's Players will very much sort of pick a particular type of game that they like or are knowledgeable about, be it like a JRPG or shooters or, open world sandbox like Minecraft. And then that's sort of their niche that they work with for their audience. Those are the games they continue to work on. Those are the ones they put out. I think there are very few Let's Players on here that are sort of like all-rounders that will go from one genre to another and, do it successfully.
Well, we have a case of that here. I'd say, we've got stuff that's as different as Bomberman, Agent Under Fire, and Ni no Kuni, all that. They're all kind of different mishmash of genres, and every LP so far has gone pretty well, so,
So it is a good point, because by far the one that the most views go towards, like the single set of series, tend to be like The Legend of Zelda's. I think about half of the people, like maybe 3/4 of, say, the amount of views we would get for a Zelda part would go into a Sleeping Dogs part. And you guys know how much we loved that Let's Play. But
that was
not nearly as many people watched it. Like Ni no Kuni's not necessarily getting many views. Bomberman Hero, I think, is still like our most watched thing. But I don't know if anyone's ever gone back to it, really.
I don't know if I go back to them.
So that seems to be a good point. I think it's more not so much a conscious decision by the Let's Player, more just kind of gauging what the audience goes for the most, and then pointing yourself in the most profitable direction.
Mhm.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You can hardly blame them. I've seen Let's Players who do try to move a little bit out of their comfort zone, say what they normally do is turn-based games, and then suddenly they'll do like an action game, and they'll still sort of keep up the same level of commentary, but they'll make a lot more mistakes. They'll get frustrated at the game a lot more. They'll even mention from time to time like this is not my forte. Like I'm using a D-pad instead of an analog stick. It's messing me up. Things like that. So it can also hamper your product, I guess, if you're working with a control scheme or with a gameplay element that you're just not used to or just don't really enjoy. Because if you're not enjoying what you're doing on here, then it's not going to be fun to watch. There are Let's Players on here where one of their big draws is like, oh man, when they take on hard games and they get so angry at them, they just like are screaming for a solid minute and then they're back to the grind. And I don't like that. I don't like seeing people get frustrated or fail constantly because I'm here to see, the game and be entertained, but it's a real problem for me sometimes if someone is trying to let's play a game and they don't do it very well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry, but anytime say in the BioShock Infinite let's play where you guys just walk past a little bit of loot or a secret, I sort of like tear at my hair for a minute or so, and I'm just like, they can't do anything about it. I know they can't do it. They're even apologizing for it in the video, but I'm just like, it goes against every fiber of my instincts after being trained on games for so long.
Don't ever watch Darksideville, then you'll probably have an aneurysm.
I don't know how I've managed to avoid him this far.
Well, I've not consciously gone out to seek any of his videos. Just basically, you get recommendations. It's like, okay, I'll click this. Nope. He's got a series on sleeping dogs, and it is the worst thing. I mean, I only watched the edited highlights of it, and even that was enough to be like, oh, this guy is just terrible. It's like not only was he really bad at the game, like failing at the first chase, he was making a ton of racist jokes throughout as well. So it's like 2 for 2 there.
It's funny to hear about.
I don't know if I've ever seen. I've certainly seen ones where it's like a kid holding a video camera up to his TV monitor, and it's one like, okay, this is bad product, obviously, but I don't think this person could have known any better. I don't think I've seen anyone who I've been able to say like, your work is completely without merit and you should stop this. I don't think I've ever seen anything that bad. I can find redeeming qualities in almost anything.
Look at you.
I might also just, be able to tell on sight if I'm not going to enjoy a particular YouTuber or a particular Let's Play. You can sort of make those decisions pretty quickly.
Yeah, like within the first few minutes.
Just look at the thumbnail and you can easily tell most of the time. If they're pulling a stupid face in the thumbnail, keep away. That's my rule of thumb.
Is it a thumbnail of a game or of them?
Yeah.
And oddly enough, if you see like a cartoon version of the person, that usually is a bad sign for me, even though it shows, a bit more quality of like, oh, they made a custom thumbnail. But is it focusing more on the game or is it focusing more on the person? Because I find Let's Plays that are focused on, the personality of a particular player, those don't tend to go so well. I don't know why.
It's because the game is completely arbitrary to what's going on.
Yeah, it's just, look at me! Look at me! Don't care about the game, look at me! That's what they care about.
Look at me, we're going to play Minecraft for 500 episodes, so you can just have me! Yeah, have we come to any sort of conclusion on viability of this as a way of life?
It kind of isn't.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, Thorn, sucks to be you.
Shit.
Don't quit your day job.
I don't have one.
Yeah, another thing I thought of in there is the merit of competitive gaming and stuff, but I don't know how knowledgeable you two are about that. I mean, I'm not exactly massively, knowledgeable on it either, but I've hung around the fighting game community and the Pokemon community a bit, and those are quite different.
As far as I know, it's just a case of, tournaments don't come around forever, especially video games. There's only a few video games I can think of that have had a persistent, like, pro scene that still do like tournaments and whatnot, like say 10 years past their introduction date.
Does tend to be more
You-
kind of real-time strategy is usually what gets that stuff. Like, you got your Dota, you got your League of Legends and StarCraft. It's usually that kind of thing works pretty well because that's like, you see stuff happening, unfolding in real time and stuff, and there's all this they've got to adapt on the fly, and that's why fighting games work as well, because you've got to adapt to your opponent's strategies as well, and I think that's kind of the appeal of competitive games. When you get that, you get this kind of, it's like, it's kind of like, they call it esports. It's kind of a bit like sport in that way, where you see, if you're watching, like, say, I don't know, a football match, and it's like, oh, he's gonna score, no, okay, but it's that kind of thing where you see the tactics and the players' skill, whatever.
I do know there are people who do competitive gaming professionally.
Yeah, well, there was a few months back, there was an article I saw about that League of Legends players can apparently now get visas in the US to like work visas, as if they were like sports people. So they can actually live off that. They must be earning at least some money to be able to do that.
My only wonder is, in the case of esports, compared to Let's Play, there's not one centralized location that's accessible from all across the globe like YouTube.
That's kind of the problem. You've got to basically organize it yourself. You do occasionally at the big competitions like Evo for the fighting game community, which has been going for years now, and they get sponsorship from companies like Capcom and even Nintendo this year, who sponsored it because they had Melee running. Eventually, if you've got the traction going, you can kind of pull the money in. But it's still at that stage where it's just that they get hundreds of thousands of views, but not millions. It's not mainstream yet. It's still somewhat a bit of a niche thing, and I'm not quite sure how much money's on the line either.
I think Twitch TV is helping to sort of at least spread the exposure for those kinds of events. I know I get emails in my folder every once in a while saying like, oh, we're going to be broadcasting this tournament live if you want to show up, and I'm like, no, I don't, but thanks. I now know this is a thing. But
Yeah.
I guess for esports, that's I don't know if we can call that sort of like a nascent budding industry, because that's been around for a while, but maybe we've just been getting better with interconnectivity and being able to broadcast things that we could get a sizable fan base to show up for games, sort of the same thing we have with televised sports, because that's what you need. You need people showing up and watching, or else no one cares how good you are.
People have actually said this, that like 10 years ago, the fighting game community was pretty tiny because there was no way you could really get information on other players or anything, because at that point there was no YouTube, there was nothing like that. It's just like you had to rely on local knowledge, as it were. You had to have the local community, or else you'd have no one to practice with. You'd have no way of getting better at the game. You'd have no tournaments or anything. So it's kind of, the dawn of kind of Web 2.0 or whatever it is, that's definitely helped to at least bring something to the forefront.
So better option than Let's Playing, at least for now.
Possibly, yeah, because there's more money in it, and you don't have to be, kind of obnoxious like PewDiePie to become a good at esports or anything. You just got to practice, really. Although I think some people do take it a bit too far, because I've heard that the real top players do actually spend like 12 hours a day practicing online and shit, and it's like, who's got time for that? Because you'd have to be doing that as, you'd have to do that full time if you're gonna consistently pull like 12-hour stints on Street Fighter Online or whatever.
Well, it's kind of the same thing with Let's Play. You got to put the time into it.
Yep.
If you want to make an actual career out of it.
Yeah, well, I don't think you'd be spending 12 hours a day editing. At least I'd hope not. Wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Oh, they're not editing. Well, apparently some of them are, but not much.
Not much. Well, you can count putting a face cam on there as editing, possibly.
I'm just imagining if this ever gets put up, there's just a little counter at the top saying how many hours Thorne spent editing this particular podcast episode.
Oh, it won't even be one.
Yeah, I mean, all you got to do is just sort the audio, really, and have an image.
I could just put the logo if I'm really lazy.
Yeah, that's it. But podcast as opposed to actual proper content is kind of piss easy, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, going back to Let's Player as an employee, I can only think of maybe 3 groups with people in them that would qualify as that necessarily, like possibly Game Grumps, Rooster Teeth, Yogscast, people who are employed to play games and commentate them in the capacity of Let's Play.
And I feel like that sort of small number is not a good sign for an industry. It's a good sign for, say, an artistic movement, but not really for a career that you want to get paid in, because that number is less than like the acceptance rate of a single graduate school that you could be going to instead for your career.
Yeah, it's the thing is in the future there's going to be apparently a lot less manual jobs because basically we're just making robots that can do all our shit for us. And apart from people who are going to have to be able to repair the robots and do program them and shit, probably not going to need as many people doing that kind of manual work. So that would free people up to go with more kind of creative and artistic kind of things. So people could go away from conventional kind of jobs and spread out to YouTube or whatever. I don't know. That was kind of a thing that kind of prompted my idea.
The one caveat there is assuming that with far less labor jobs, people will naturally migrate over to artistic jobs. But the problem is if you don't have any sort of artistic talent, then instead you just get to starve because there's no jobs for you whatsoever.
Yeah, just look on fanfiction.net. You'll see lots of people like that. I should
like
know.
me, please.
Yeah, there is too much of that for me to be comfortable with.
I don't know. Would you? I would say writing fan fiction. Would you say that's easier or more difficult than recording, editing, and posting Let's Plays?
Oh fuck, I don't know. I've never really done a Let's Play, so I can't really compare. But I am I'm currently in the process of actually writing a kind of a fanfic. It's kind of I've got people to basically send characters in, so it works. It's basically everyone's in this kind of situation. They are gonna all get killed off or whatever. That's kind of the gist of it. People get trapped in a hospital and gonna get killed. So that's kind of the gist of that. And it's like, okay, so I've got a bit more work goes into it than the usual fanfic. I'll try and speed this up so it doesn't take forever because I know people are gonna be like, what the fuck is this guy on about? We're about games. But yeah, but basically, I had to kind of be able to picture all these kind of people interacting. I had to think, how would they interact with each other and my character that I put in there, and another one that my friend did, who's basically crazy and obsessed with fire. Good for him. So it's fun. I'll give it that.
Having done both writing and Let's playing is a lot easier. Because if any creative endeavor that requires some platform of stability, there's a lot of brain racking that goes into that.
Oh yeah, that's the difficulty. It's like, because at the moment I don't have a job, so I can just write and upload whenever the hell I want. But when I get a job, am I going to be able to do that? Because it's like, so you have to, I'll be in work all day and I'll come home and I'm like, oh, I can't be arsed writing today, but people want more chapters. And I'm like, what do I do? That's kind of the problem.
I mean, if you're someone who can improvise and go off the cuff and still be entertaining, then yeah, Let's Playing is much easier.
Yeah, I can only do that with words, really. That's my problem.
If you're doing fan fiction off the cuff and acting and being engaging, then you're basically doing tabletop RPG. And I can tell you about that. But
you can't make money off doing tabletop RPG, though. Then again, I can't make money off mine because it's copyright and shit. It'd be a fucking minefield.
Basically, if you were to make money off tabletop RPG, you'd essentially be doing a Let's Play where you get everyone around the table and you film your D&D game and then upload it onto YouTube for ad revenue, which would puts us back in the same problem that a Let's Player might have.
I wonder if anyone's actually done that and actually recorded a D&D game and put it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, people have done that. They've done that as podcasts and stuff. Results are for good groups. They're okay, but they're not excellent. It's
as expected.
Yeah, same problems you can expect from a Let's Play. Only the additional problem of you also have to create an interesting and engaging plot line in addition to being funny people who can entertain a fickle audience.
Hmm.
So it's kind of the worst of both worlds. Let's not do that.
Yeah.